This isn't just some cute ute for the streets. This is a Jeep. Jeep, 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 Jeep. Jeep, 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 Jeep. It's a Jeep thing, that too. And that means that no matter where you go and what you do, it should be rugged enough for the job. But just looking at this Compass, and you have the idea that it's going to be pretty good as a daily driver as well. I mean, it just looks like a mini Grand Cherokee. So let's see if it matches those expectations. You can tell right away that this is a Jeep because of that badge and the 7-slot grille. But overall, this vehicle looks like the Big Daddy Grand Cherokee, which means that it looks premium and mature, and you won't be embarrassed being caught driving one of these. You'll notice though that this isn't the hardcore Trailhawk version of the Compass, which looks beefier and gets a raised suspension as well as a unique crawl ratio for its all-wheel drive system. Instead, I have a well-equipped, limited trimmed Compass, and it's almost as capable. There's 8.2 inches of ground clearance, and while it doesn't have as wild of an approach angle as the Trailhawk, it does have some pretty solid breakover and departure angles at 22.9 and 31.7 degrees respectively. Beyond the capable setup, the Limited features some cool exterior features like standard 18-inch wheels, although we have 19s, LED tail lights, and a power liftgate, as well as that lovely two-tone roof. There's also a huge dual-pane sunroof, a low-key callback to the OG Wrangler's open-air experience. Under the hood is a 2.4-liter 4-cylinder engine that makes 180 horsepower and 175 pound-feet of torque. Now, both of those numbers sound pretty good, about on average with what you'd get with the rest of the crossover lineups out there. But for whatever reason, this car just feels slow at times. It can feel like it's running out of breath. A lot of the blame I would put on the new 9-speed automatic transmission. Sometimes it just feels like it takes a while to downshift or upshift, and it just, I don't know, seems really clumsy about the way it chooses its gears. But fortunately, off-roading favors those who go slow and steady, and this car can definitely manage that pretty easily. At least when it comes to the fuel economy of this vehicle, it's moderately fuel efficient. Now, this car is rated to get 25 miles per gallon, and it has a start-stop system as well as a all-wheel drive system that will disconnect the rear axle when it's not in use. But nobody buys a Jeep for its fuel efficiency. They want it because of the capability, and this car has some added functionality, including this rotary knob that allows you to choose different situations that you'd be driving the car in. And you can even lock the 4-wheel drive mode so that you have all 4 wheels powered by the engine. Now, it's important to remember that we're in a limited Compass. If you got the Trailhawk, you'd get one with a crawl ratio that will help with going off-road. But this car is pretty capable. The only thing I would change is maybe not those optional 19-inch wheels that this car has. They just do not fare well in the mud, which is where we had the car today. Having that all-wheel drive system is extremely important, and it provides a lot of confidence to the driver. So if you find yourself in any weird weather situation, like a snowstorm or a rainstorm, or just following the road after a mudslide, or who knows, maybe even a firestorm, meteor shower, or zombie apocalypse, this car can probably handle everything that gets thrown at it. And the suspension in this car has been really well tuned. As you can see, in pothole season, which is just after the winter, the car is actually feeling pretty smooth. It's mild. There's no crashes or bumps on the road, and I think that's really important. Granted, as I mentioned, this car has 19-inch wheels, and I would probably trade those out for the 18s, which come standard with the car. It would probably just lead to a more smoother and quieter ride. The steering is also really well weighted. It is quite lifeless, but you know what? That's to be expected these days in modern vehicles. But what I love is just how heavy the car feels. And again, that adds to that feeling of confidence that no matter what, you're in a tough vehicle that can tackle anything in front of you. While we're talking about the steering, I have to admit I'm not a huge fan of the chunky steering wheel, but it does have some benefits. There's really nice buttons on the back of the steering wheel, which make controlling the infotainment system way easier. But there's some other things I'm not a huge fan of when it comes to the interior. In fact, the interior's not the nicest place to be in. Some of the materials feel and look a little low rent, especially in the rear of the vehicle. And then there's the infotainment system, which is really handy. I like the Uconnect system, but sometimes it glitches out, and for a while there I have just a black screen until one day it decided to come back. I don't really know what caused that, but I'm glad that it's working again. One of the things that bothers me though is that there's a lot of redundant buttons on the center console. I can control all of the climate functions from the Uconnect system, but why are there additional buttons underneath that? I'm not sure if you need those. One of the things I'm not very happy with in this car is the amount of at-hand storage. In fact, it's almost impossible to put anything in this vehicle. If I wanted to throw my smartphone anywhere in the car, it would have to be in the cup holders. But what if I wanted to put one of my cups in there, you know? Now what do I do with my smartphone? Well, sure, I have the armrest, but it's actually quite shallow. I'm just trying to say that it would be nice if there were, better shelving or cubbies in this vehicle. It would go a long way. And while the car has a ton of USB ports, I just don't think it would lend itself to a family or long road trips, just because there's nowhere to throw all of your stuff. The rear seats are also tight, and I'm not sold about the cargo space. Seats up or down, it never seems like enough. And not only that, but the car also has a high load floor, which means getting heavier stuff in it can be a bit of a challenge. Tech-wise though, the vehicle does have a lot going for it. As I mentioned, it has one of the best infotainment systems in the business, when it's working. And there's some really fancy stuff like heated seats and heated steering wheel. Now this car also comes with lane keep assist and a great rear view camera. The only thing it doesn't have is adaptive cruise control. Now a brand new Compass will cost about $25,000 and this limited model will cost around $30,000. Now you can get additional options on top of that and that will also bump up the price. At that price point though, you're looking at fully loaded vehicles like the Honda CR-V or the Mazda CX-5, which recently won our Utility Vehicle of the Year contest. But those other crossovers just don't have the same credibility and off-road capability that this Compass has. That all-wheel drive system is what makes a Jeep, and for some people, that's worth the price of admission.